What really happened behind Windsor's locked doors that night, and why did it leave Queen Camilla visibly shaken? Just after midnight, a convoy of black cars slipped through a lesser-known entrance of Windsor Castle. No press, no announcements. Within minutes, the palace went silent. Phones stopped, aides were told nothing. Even insiders who know every rule were left confused. Whatever was happening, it broke normal royal protocol, and it was serious. At first, newsrooms whispered about a royal emergency, but this wasn't about politics or national security. This was personal. King Charles had quietly summoned a small group of senior aides, trusted figures who once served Queen Elizabeth. No agenda, no explanation, just one order: be there and say nothing. Inside the king's private chamber, the mood was tense. Aides later described total silence, broken only by the faint ticking of his pocket watch. No cameras, no statements prepared, just one clear rule: absolute discretion. Then, Catherine arrived, alone. No visible entourage, no media moment. Dressed simply, calm but focused, she carried a sealed envelope believed to contain a final symbolic bequest from the late queen. Staff reportedly froze as she passed, some bowing instinctively. The atmosphere shifted instantly. This wasn't routine, it felt historic. Not long after, Queen Camilla was seen near the West Wing, pacing. According to sources, she had not been informed in advance. She asked questions but received little clarity. Then, the doors were locked. Whatever decision was unfolding inside did not include a wider audience. Behind those doors, tradition appeared to bend. This was not about abdication or loss. It was about choice, a symbolic shift, a private moment that suggested the future of the monarchy was being carefully shaped.
I'm desperately disappointed not to be able to join you today as we celebrate the conferral of city status on Douglas here on the Isle of Man. I'm grateful to Her Majesty for being prepared to read my words today, and certainly hope that Manana packed his cloak away to enable my dear wife to land at Monarchy in the adjacent land this afternoon.
While public attention focused on past royal scandals, a quieter transformation had been building. During the fallout from Harry and Meghan's departure and the controversy surrounding Prince Andrew, Catherine remained steady. She avoided drama, she projected calm, and in uncertain times, that kind of stability carries weight. Senior aides who once questioned her place in the monarchy began to rely on her judgment. She listened, she observed, and when she spoke, people paid attention. Not loud power, but quiet authority. That night at Windsor signaled something bigger than a meeting. It hinted at a shift inside the royal structure itself, a king making deliberate moves, a future being positioned carefully behind closed doors. Something changed in that silence, and the ripple effect may only just be beginning. How did Catherine go from being overlooked to quietly reshaping the monarchy? Her voice, once barely noticed in Privy Council briefings, began shaping real decisions. As Britain searched for stability during one of its most divided royal eras, she offered something rare: calm resolve. While others drew attention, she built influence. Princess Anne was among the first to see her potential. Away from cameras, Anne reportedly guided Catherine through the monarchy's old rules: discipline, endurance, and discretion. No spotlight, just lessons rooted in duty. Prince Edward also spent time with her, walking the palace gardens, sharing insights few outside the late Queen's inner circle ever heard. These weren't casual chats, they were quiet, passing the torch moments. Behind closed doors, Catherine deepened her understanding of constitutional protocol, diplomacy, and ceremony. Slowly, senior advisors began to trust her instincts, not because of orders, but because they saw consistency, a steady presence, a future queen in spirit, long before any formal title. Queen Elizabeth's influence still echoed through the palace. In her final handwritten note, reportedly placed in a personal safe, she wrote, "Trust the one with unshakable grace." Many believe those words pointed directly at Catherine. During the Commonwealth's uncertain post-Brexit years, it was Catherine who often represented the crown abroad. Diplomats and former officials praised her balance, her sense of unity, and her respect for tradition. Even members of the Queen's personal clergy spoke highly of her discipline and depth. Yet, despite growing influence, Catherine stayed away from drama. She avoided factional disputes, protected her children, kept alliances with Anne and Edward private. This wasn't retreat, it was strategy. While others competed for visibility, she prepared in silence. And then came the moment no one predicted. A symbolic act so powerful, it shifted palace dynamics overnight. Tensions that had simmered beneath polished smiles suddenly felt exposed. Camilla, who had worked for decades to secure her place, found her standing questioned in ways few expected.
Behind the formal titles and rehearsed appearances, something had changed. The balance inside the monarchy was no longer the same, and everyone could feel it. Camilla had survived scorn, scandal, and years of public doubt. She always found a way back into the royal fold. But in the days before the secret ceremony, something changed, and she could feel it. Meetings she once led were reassigned without explanation. Invitations went out without her name. At first, it was subtle, then it became impossible to ignore. The quiet unraveling of power had begun. Whispers inside palace corridors turned into private meetings. Key figures in royal protocol, people once firmly in Camilla's camp, started aligning more closely with Catherine. Her influence, once focused on ceremonial duties, had expanded into core operations, foreign visits, security planning, even briefing papers for King Charles. The shift was steady and strategic. Camilla's inner circle grew smaller. Then came the breaking point. Just 72 hours before the private ceremony, insiders described a tense exchange between Camilla and King Charles. Voices were reportedly raised. Camilla demanded to know why she had been excluded from critical discussions. Charles's reported response ended with a chilling line. Some roles were never meant to be permanent. Still, Camilla refused to step aside. She made urgent calls to senior aides. She sought answers from royal security. She tried to stop the late-night gatherings she had not approved. But something had changed. The same officials who once moved quickly at her request now hesitated. One palace source claimed Camilla attempted to intervene, but by the time action was taken, it was too late. The doors had already closed. Charles had made his decision, and Catherine had accepted what many saw as a powerful symbol of legitimacy. A longtime staff member later described a deeply emotional moment behind the Queen's gallery. Camilla was reportedly in tears, repeating softly, "He did it. He really did it." That private moment, quietly shared with select media insiders, sparked what some called a sympathy battle she could not win. The institution she fought so hard to belong to appeared to be moving forward, without confrontation, without public drama, just quiet machinery in motion. But the ceremony itself was not described as rivalry. It was about legacy, about reflection, about a king confronting his own path. In a candlelit room, without trumpets or spectacle, King Charles stood stripped of ceremony, not just as monarch, but as a man carrying history, responsibility, and the weight of deeply personal choices. And in that stillness, something inside the monarchy shifted forever. In a moment few could have imagined, King Charles removed the insignia that marked his sovereignty, not in shame, but in solemn acknowledgement. His hands reportedly trembled, not from age, but from emotion. Then, in a move no modern monarch has ever made, he dropped to one knee. He wasn't kneeling before a crowned queen. He was kneeling before the woman he believed could steady what he felt slipping away. What he said next reportedly froze the room. "You are the future. I failed to protect." The words were described as unrehearsed, raw, and deeply personal. Witnesses said Catherine's expression wasn't triumph, it was shock. The weight of a king placing his legacy in her hands was almost too much to process. Charles then reached into his pocket and placed a simple ring into her palm. It once belonged to Queen Elizabeth, not part of the official crown jewels, but a private piece said to symbolize clarity, foresight, and lifelong service. The gesture wasn't decorative, it was symbolic, it was powerful. Two trusted aides stood as witnesses, reportedly brought in under Princess Anne's guidance. One was said to have quietly wiped away tears. The other simply watched, fully aware history was shifting in real time. Catherine did not bow, she did not speak. She held the ring tightly as tears fell, unguarded. The silence between them stretched long and heavy. Some later described it as the true turning point, not a coronation, but a confession, not a ceremony, but a transfer of belief. Princess Anne's influence was said to loom over the moment. She had long argued that legacy was about trust, not just bloodline. And in that fragile hour, Charles chose trust. This scene would never be televised, yet its impact would ripple far beyond palace walls. It was quiet, but irreversible. By dawn, tension spilled into the open. Camilla was seen leaving the palace visibly distressed, without her usual staff or formal coordination. Cameras caught her walking quickly, phone in hand. According to reports, she said, "He's made his choice." The image was striking, a queen consort stepping away without ceremony, without statement, without preparation. That single moment sent shockwaves through the royal press corps. Inside the palace, silence returned, but outside, the narrative had shifted, and the monarchy would never look quite the same again. The palace couldn't contain the fallout. As Camilla stepped outside, cameramen shouted her name. Questions flew from every direction. She said nothing, but the silence said enough. Within minutes, the footage hit global networks. Royal watchers everywhere knew something serious had happened behind those walls. Inside, tensions reportedly exploded. Insiders described shouting that echoed through stone corridors. Doors slammed so hard that guards briefly feared a security issue. At one point, a draft letter prepared for the Privy Council was allegedly found torn in half near Camilla's private fireplace. No one admitted to it, but the timing raised eyebrows. The once controlled image of unity had cracked. King Charles reportedly went silent for nearly 2 days. No direct conversations, messages passed through aides, not even a public appearance together. For a royal couple known for presenting stability, that silence spoke volumes. Media speculation spiraled fast. Some outlets hinted at abdication. Others suggested a private power shift months in the making. International press tracked Camilla's movements, even floating the idea of a temporary retreat. The noise was relentless. But amid the chaos, one force grew louder: the public. Social media surged with support for Catherine. Hashtags linking her to Queen Elizabeth's legacy trended globally. Crowds gathered outside palace gates, holding photos of Catherine beside the late queen. Comparisons were unavoidable and powerful. Even longtime royal insiders adjusted their tone. Former aides offered careful praise for wise decisions. Some prominent supporters of Camilla quietly stepped back from public appearances. Charities connected to her issued neutral statements.
In a monarchy built on symbolism, even small shifts felt enormous. Catherine, meanwhile, remained composed. No dramatic statements, no visible celebration, just presence. As Camilla's visibility decreased, Catherine's seemed to grow, not through announcement, but through absence. The vacuum was filling naturally. Then came an unexpected twist. From the Windsor archives, a sealed envelope surfaced, marked only with the royal cipher. It was addressed simply to the woman who understands duty. Palace officials reportedly believed the timing was right following the private ceremony. When Catherine opened it, those present said the contents nearly brought her to her knees. What was written inside, and why was it hidden until now, may explain everything that unfolded behind those palace doors. The document had been locked inside Queen Elizabeth's private vault, known only to her most trusted legal advisor and Princess Anne. It had survived 3 reigns, multiple revisions, and even a key clause rewritten in the Queen's own hand. For years, it stayed hidden, until now. As tensions inside the monarchy grew, the question of legacy could no longer be avoided. The letter itself was short, but powerful. In her steady, unmistakable tone, Elizabeth expressed concern about the future of the crown. She warned of emotional instability and shifting alliances within the House of Windsor. No names were written, none were needed. She noted patterns of influence in internal maneuvering that troubled her. In contrast, she praised Catherine's discipline, loyalty, and instinct for duty. Then came the line now echoing through palace corridors. The crown must not merely be worn, it must be understood, and Catherine understands. Those words alone carried weight, but the actions attached to them were even striking. Specific heirlooms, rarely seen and traditionally passed through direct bloodlines, were designated for Catherine and her children. Certain titles, long expected to follow another path, were redirected, not through law, but through intention. This was not a formal will, it was a moral roadmap for the monarchy's survival. At the bottom, beneath the official seal, one handwritten sentence stood out: "Protect the crown from within." That message shifted everything. Once the letter surfaced, palace dynamics began to change, quietly but decisively. Senior aides reconsidered loyalties, legal minds reviewed historical precedents. Conversations once unthinkable were now happening behind closed doors. For the first time, some royal watchers openly discussed whether true authority comes from a title or from trust. Catherine, still processing the emotional moment of Charles kneeling, now faced something even heavier. She hadn't sought this role, yet 2 monarchs in different ways had placed responsibility in her hands. With that letter revealed, she was no longer just a senior royal. She had become, symbolically, a guardian of the institution itself. But there was another layer. Behind the scenes, Prince William had been quietly preparing for change, not through confrontation, but through strategy. Long before tensions became visible, he had met privately with senior advisors who once served his grandmother. His focus wasn't rebellion, it was stability. William reportedly believed the monarchy needed realignment, not reaction. And by strengthening Catherine's position early, he aimed to secure the institution's future before cracks turned into collapse. The real shift, it seems, was never sudden. It was carefully built, step by step, until the moment the world finally noticed. William understood legacy, but he also understood hesitation could destroy it. In private meetings with senior advisors, he made one thing clear: there would be no strong future monarchy without Catherine at its center. What few realized was that he had already begun shifting the balance of influence inside the palace. Requests that once passed through Camilla's office were quietly redirected. Budget approval slowed. Public engagements she supported were postponed under scheduling adjustments. Key members of her circle were reassigned to roles far from central decision-making. There was no confrontation, only precision. William didn't need to argue. His authority, though unofficial, carried weight.
The name Windsor still mattered, but inside palace walls, the steady presence of Catherine and the growing trust around her began to inspire confidence at a critical moment. His most important move came in a private meeting with King Charles. No aides, no record. The discussion reportedly lasted over 3 hours. When they emerged, witnesses claimed both men looked emotional. According to insiders, Charles had been waiting to hear it plainly. Catherine was ready. The public already saw her as the natural successor in spirit. Delay would only deepen uncertainty. That conversation didn't just lead to the ceremony, it gave Charles resolve. For the first time, a symbolic passing of responsibility would happen in life, not in loss. Princess Anne played a decisive role. William approached her not just as heir, but as family seeking guidance. Anne demanded reassurance that Catherine would protect the dignity of the crown. William promised she would continue Elizabeth's legacy without compromise. Anne's quiet approval shifted the atmosphere instantly. Prince Edward remained publicly neutral but privately cooperative. With just enough support secured, William ensured the bold move would appear measured, not reckless. Days before the ceremony, in their private residence, William turned to Catherine and said, "We rule together or not at all." She answered not with words, but by taking his hand. That silent agreement became their foundation. Then came the unexpected surge from the public. Images of Charles kneeling and Catherine receiving his vow spread rapidly. Across the UK and the Commonwealth, support poured in. Online tributes multiplied. Crowds gathered. Commentators began calling it a spiritual coronation, not defined by law, but by public belief. The moment Charles knelt, something shifted beyond palace walls. An old structure seemed to loosen, and something new, driven by perception and trust, began to rise. What started as a private decision had transformed into a movement no one could fully control. Something unexpected was happening. People stopped saying Duchess or Princess. More and more simply called her our Queen. Not through law, not through proclamation, but through belief. Crowds gathered outside Kensington and Buckingham, not in protest but in admiration. Banners read, "Our Queen has come," and Elizabeth chose her. Children held drawings of Catherine beside the late Queen, their names linked by memory and hope. It wasn't organized, it was organic and powerful. Across the Commonwealth, the mood shifted too. In Canada, Australia, and parts of the Caribbean, leaders quietly reached out. Reports suggested they sought meetings with Catherine, not just Charles. They wanted her presence, her steadiness. For years, distance had defined those relationships. Now, connection mattered, and Catherine seemed to represent that bridge. Inside the UK, the political atmosphere began to feel the pressure. A small but growing number of members of Parliament discussed a symbolic motion, an unprecedented gesture recognizing Catherine as a future queen consort in waiting. Though not legally binding, the proposal alone sent shockwaves through royal circles. Never before had elected officials openly signaled trust in someone without formal authority, but public sentiment was growing louder by the day.
Prominent journalists who once stayed neutral began writing boldly. Some described a new Elizabethan spirit. Others called Catherine's restraint quiet majesty. Even veteran royal commentators admitted the shift felt real and lasting. Meanwhile, Camilla's visibility declined. Engagements she was expected to attend were quietly canceled. Her name appeared less frequently in internal planning. No official statements were issued, but the silence felt heavy. Catherine, on the other hand, accepted invitations with calm confidence. She didn't dramatize the moment, she didn't campaign, she simply showed up, steady, composed, deliberate. Observers noted that she avoided grand gestures, no speeches claiming destiny, no attempts to overshadow anyone, yet with every appearance, public support seemed to strengthen. It wasn't loud ambition, it was measured presence. What made it powerful was the contrast. While controversy and speculation swirled, Catherine projected stability, and in uncertain times, stability becomes influence. The monarchy had not officially changed. Titles remained the same, protocol remained intact, but beyond palace walls, something undeniable was forming. Not a rebellion, not a takeover, a quiet redefinition, driven not by decree, but by the people themselves. She never demanded attention, she simply appeared where she was needed, steady, composed, present. Her calm became a rallying point, her humility a quiet kind of strength. A monarchy once weighed down by ego and controversy seemed to rediscover purpose through a woman who never asked to lead, but was chosen twice, first by a queen, then by the people. Before this new chapter could settle, one final symbolic act took place. Inside Buckingham Palace, Camilla's portrait was quietly removed from the Hall of Matriarchs. In its place appeared a previously unseen image of Catherine, hand over heart, eyes lowered in reflection. No announcement, no press release, none was needed. The message traveled faster than words ever could. The palace walls, lined with generations of queens and consorts, now carried the image of a woman not formally crowned, yet already embraced by public trust. The replacement felt less like decoration and more like declaration. Legitimacy, it seemed, is not only inherited, it is earned. Internally, shifts continued. Meetings, once chaired elsewhere, were reassigned. Offices were restructured, advisory roles consolidated. It was not described as punishment, but as realignment. A streamlined monarchy focused on stability and direction. Catherine's growing oversight was never formally announced, it simply became visible. Her name appeared on royal foundation correspondence. Patronage decisions increasingly flowed through her office. Causes once sidelined regained momentum under her guidance. Staff began turning to her not just out of protocol, but respect. She moved not as a rival, but as restoration, not replacing history, but steadying it. Meanwhile, King Charles stepped back. Public appearances were reduced, statements became rare. His silence did not spark crisis, it sparked reflection. Speculation about abdication resurfaced, louder than before, yet he neither confirmed nor denied it, he simply allowed space. In a monarchy built on visibility, his restraint felt symbolic. The most powerful act may have already happened the night he knelt. And then, on a late winter evening, Catherine stood alone before the Crown Mother's crown jewels, not to claim them, not to display them, but to reflect. The path had been unexpected, the responsibility immense, yet the direction now felt clear. What began in whispers behind closed doors ended in a shift the world could feel. Not through proclamation, not through force, but through trust. And just like that, the monarchy entered a new era, quietly, deliberately, and with a queen the world never predicted, yet seemed ready to embrace.